it's the first time we're doing this, but I wanted to meet with you because I find your story very inspiring and everything else, and wanted to get it out there and let people kind of get to know you a little bit and what kind of you've dealt with and how far you've come. So, your name is Kelly Huey.
Yes.
And what do you do? What's your job?
I'm a special ed teacher at Haworth Elementary.
Haworth Elementary.
Mm-hmm.
And that changed recently, right?
Yes, I taught 3rd and 4th grade for several years, and this is my first year back in special ed.
Okay. And you like it?
I do like it.
Yeah. Good. Good deal.
Love the kids.
Yeah. Great. So as far as your health and fitness go, how long have you been doing CrossFit?
About 4.5 years.
4.5 years. And we've been 5 Alarm for about 4.
It was right before you took over
Right.
when I
So
joined.
you were about 6 months or so
Yes.
before it became 5 Alarm. So what? Because I actually don't even know this part of the story. So what brought you to CrossFit in general in the first place?
A challenge from my son that I could not do it.
Really?
Yes.
Really?
He was coming here.
Okay.
And he said, "You can't do it. I know you can't do it." And I said, "Is that a challenge?" And he goes, "Yes." So I came and I did it.
Did you know anything about CrossFit before you started?
No, not a lot. Not a lot.
Okay.
I know there was a lot of weight training involved, but I didn't know what else was involved.
Okay. What was your first impression?
That it was hard,
Yeah.
but I liked it. I liked the variety of the workouts. It was different every day, and the people.
Yeah. They
It's
did a
like
good job.
Yes.
Before Lee and I took over and everything, they did I know they did, but they did a good job, like not pushing you too far, like letting you modify
Right.
movements
Right.
or weights and stuff like
Yes.
that, and,
Yes.
and really tailoring it to your ability level and
Yes.
stuff like that. So
Yes, definitely.
has your first so you thought it was hard and everything, but from the very first workout and everything, but not impossible. So
Right.
So
Right.
has your opinion of it changed at all over 4.5 years? Do you think any of your impression has changed? Has it been?
I was skeptical at first about it, but I do not have any regrets in continuing with it. I love it. I
Yeah.
just love it. The strength I have. I mean, I'm old. I started this when I was 53.
Okay.
And so the strength that I have now is incredible.
Stronger now than
Much stronger. Much stronger.
Yeah, and healthier
And
in general.
Healthier in general, and I wouldn't change that for the world.
And you also do. I know that before we started the interview, you just came from Pilates.
Yes.
So you do kind of like do some other stuff. Do you do anything else besides Pilates and CrossFit?
No, just those two things.
Okay. Do you feel like they complement each other very well?
They do. I think Pilates is a good recovery for me
Yeah.
after a week of working out.
Yeah.
So I religiously go every Saturday morning.
Yeah. Very good.
I've been doing Pilates for about 17 years.
Oh wow.
Yes.
Really long time.
Mhm,
Yeah.
mhm.
Yeah. So if you were doing Pilates for 17 and then started CrossFit 4.5 ago, do you feel like CrossFit really added something to your overall
Yes,
health
yes,
and everything else,
mhm,
if you like that, the
yes.
strength training specifically and stuff like
yes,
that. So
Yeah. And I swam before joining CrossFit, but it wasn't giving me the strength I needed. I know we've talked about this, that I have osteoporosis. So the swimming wasn't giving me the strength I needed to build the bone back up.
the bone density and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So very good. Do you remember? I know this is different. We use the term bright spot. We probably don't use it enough, but we use the term bright spot for. It's exactly what it sounds like. Bright spots for
Right.
anything that like you do that makes yourself happy or proud or whatever the case is. And most of the time it's gym related or whatever. But Lee and I's strong opinion is that it shouldn't have to be.
Right.
But do you remember, even though it might not have been called a bright spot, do you remember like the first thing, even if it was before me and Leah, like within that first 6 months, do you remember the first thing that you ever did in here that like you were really, really proud of?
There's so much.
It might not be the very first, but one that sticks out in your
Yeah,
mind as like an early on like kind of victory that you were like, maybe you never thought you could do it, and
I still still struggle with this, but the snatch,
Mm-hmm.
adding weight for the first time, because I always had to do it with 15-pound barbell.
Mm-hmm.
And when I added weight for the first time, I was like, oh my gosh, I did it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that brings up another interesting point, though, because snatches are very complicated movements and stuff like that. And we do our absolute best to modify them to everybody's individual needs, whether that's weight or the movement specifically, like limiting the range of motion and stuff like that. So do you enjoy, because Lee and I have always said, as the head coach, I've always said, like, even though something like a snatch will pop up in a workout, no one is ever forced to do a snatch.
Right.
Like if the technicality of that, or if you have prior injuries or some type of movement limitation or anything else, or you don't have the desire to drill into the complexity of that movement, then we will never force somebody to do any Olympic weightlifting moves.
Right,
We'll never force somebody to do any high level gymnastic stuff or anything like that. So have you found that like a movement such as snatch is something that you enjoy?
I don't enjoy it at all.
Well, but you do it.
But
so,
I do it because I know it helps me.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but you push yourself like in classes
Right.
where you have the opportunity
Right.
to maybe do something
Right.
else instead of a snatch. Maybe it's just a kettlebell swing or
Right,
something along
right.
those lines. You opt for the snatch instead.
Right. Because
And,
I know that's a movement I struggle with, so I want to improve on that.
Right. Yeah, that's cool.
Right now, I just have to do it with dumbbells because of the injury I had.
Right. So great segue. Perfect.
Okay.
So let's talk about your injury. So, well, the big question I was going to ask is that might have been one of your first like memorable bright spots that you might have had. So my question was actually going to be like, what is next for you? What are you kind of working on now? And my guess is that a lot of that is just recovering from your injury. Like that's your primary focus.
That's my primary focus.
So let's talk about that. So tell everyone what happened, how you got injured.
So I was hit on the side of my leg and broke my tibia. It was called a tibial plateau fracture. So the whole top of the tibia sunk down 5 millimeters.
And you're playing with your dog.
Playing with my dog,
Playing
yes.
with your dog.
And she ran into my
What's your
leg.
dog? What dog? What kind of dog?
A Labrador.
Lab.
Yeah.
So it ate like 70, 80 pounds.
She was about 65.
65.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she just playing with her like I normally do, and she was running toward me, and I thought, okay, I gotta get out of her way because she's coming pretty fast. And I moved out of her way. She moved the same direction and just crashed into me.
Okay.
And it was part of her collar that hit me, the metal part of her collar,
Yeah.
and it hit just right, and broke the tibia.
Broke the tibia. It
Yes.
sunk down.
Sunk down.
It was a fairly major. You had to end up having surgery.
Yes, I had to have surgery, and I was non-weight bearing for about 14 weeks.
14 weeks is a long time for
Yes.
non-weight bearing.
Yes, and
So
it was very hard.
Yeah. And then you did take time off from the gym.
I did.
You took time off from the gym.
Yes.
And then when you did decide to come back, you were already weight bearing and stuff like that. And
Yes.
you were going to physical therapy.
Yes.
Are you still doing physical therapy?
No, I finished 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks.
So I had 6 months of physical therapy.
Okay. How long ago was the injury?
It happened in April, Good Friday, April 19th
Of this year.
of this year. Yes.
Okay.
So
And now we're in November. So it's been
about
6 to 7 months.
yes.
Okay. And you were non-weight bearing for 14 weeks.
Yes.
Had surgery. Were non-weight bearing, and then. So how long have you been? Do you know how long you've been back?
I started back August 1st, but it was, it was August. It was very, very limited
Very
what
limited.
I could do.
Right.
Very limited.
Do you feel like, which I could cut this out if I need to,
Okay.
but do you feel, because this is for my own knowledge, do you feel like the coaches did a good job in helping you? Feel free to say no.
Absolutely.
Feel free to say no.
No, they have been wonderful. In fact, I met with Leah and Ryan prior to me coming back to kind of explain what my limitations were, and they were like, we can do this, and between Ryan and Erica, because I come at 5 a.m.,
Yeah.
they have been fantastic.
Okay.
Absolutely fantastic. They have provided modifications for me. they let me push it to what I can do, and I stop when I feel pain that I shouldn't feel. And no, I can't say enough about the coaches here.
Man, that's good to know.
They've been fantastic.
For me, that's really good to
No,
know.
they have absolutely been fantastic.
Good. And then now, so I have a separate video of you that I took one morning when I was in here of you doing, working on single leg strength, basically doing a partial range of motion. It's like a squat, a pistol.
Right,
We call it a pistol with one leg, and to a box in limited range of motion, and just crushing it, right? So, and I think you said you were doing that in rehab.
Yes.
It was one of the exercises they were having you do in rehab.
Yes.
And with their goal was for you to have the leg strength to be able to like control descent downstairs
Yes.
and stuff like that. So that worked really well.
Yes.
That we can accommodate that and everything else. So, do you feel like your recovery is on point? You feeling strong in the knee and?
It's getting there. It's still, my whole left leg went into complete atrophy. And so I had very little strength in it. It's amazing how 2 weeks after the injury, how much muscle I had lost in the left leg. And I still see a size difference in the two legs, the left leg being a lot smaller still. So they say the recovery will be up to a year, if not more.
Yeah.
To build that strength back up.
Yeah.
And but I think just coming to the gym, I actually added weight to my clean the other day, but squatted to a box, and just so I don't get myself to a point where I squat too low and I can't get back up.
Yes.
And I'm injured.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, fun fact, right? It's the goal of the gym is the goal of any gym or any workout program should be to improve your life outside of the gym.
Right.
Right. The gym is not the end all be all goal. The goal is
Right.
to be healthy and fit in all your other pursuits. And so as a firefighter and everything else, I do the same thing. Like I'm older now and I don't compete or anything like that. And squatting to a box has been something that I've been doing 90% of the time. I squat to a box. Not because I'm afraid of getting back up or anything.
Right,
it's just, and it's not really a safety thing for me, but it's a controlled range of motion. It's not even scaling.
Right.
It's just a safer, puts me in a better position.
That's what I
stuff
have
like
found
that,
doing
so.
that. Squatting to the box, I feel like I have better control and better form.
Yeah. It's almost a mental thing, like a subconscious thing, just having it there, and you can get to exactly what depth you need. You're not like going too high, you're not going too low.
Right.
It's there, and it's almost like a mental thing that you just it's there. You tap it and come back up, and great.
Exactly.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So before I move on, so recovery's still going well. You're not doing rehab anymore.
Right.
Besides like what you do in here, which is kind of mimicking some of the rehab and stuff like that. And that's all going really well. But you mentioned briefly that you have osteoporosis.
Yes.
And I know like the last time I talked to you about it, like how often do you get tested?
I can only get tested every 2 years.
Every 2 years. And it was before your injury, I think.
Yeah.
When I asked you about it last time.
Right.
And it had actually, like, in spite of what you're doing here, your bone density actually dropped, I think.
It did drop a little bit.
But
it actually improved, not dropped, but yeah, it improved a little in some areas, but dropped in some.
Okay, yeah, I'm not 100% familiar with the bone
I
density, like how the results work. So
my left hip got worse, but my right hip got better, and my lower back was, I think, if I remember correctly, was slightly better.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know how you probably feel about it, but have your doctors or anything? Do they say anything to you about weight training in order to improve that, or?
They really haven't. I just kind of with research, and I have a really good book that I read up on about osteoporosis, and
What was the book?
I can't think of what it is. I have it at home.
That's okay.
Yeah, I can't. But it
Let
had.
people know if
It's very helpful for me. A lot of it was diet, a few vitamin supplements. That one was magnesium and then the other one was it's a liquid K2 or something like that. But adding those two vitamins that I don't take calcium. My calcium levels have always been in the normal range, so I don't supplement with calcium.
Yeah.
Just a daily vitamin.
I assume.
And
Yeah. Yeah. You eat a lot of greens.
I try to.
Yeah.
I try.
Higher in calcium than dairy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Most people don't know that. They
Right,
think for low bone density, I need to drink milk or whatever. And it's
No,
okay,
no,
greens can do
it
it.
comes from greens.
Eat your vegetables.
Yes, exactly.
Right. So
exactly.
yeah, there's a reason nutritionists around the world say eat your vegetables, right?
Right. Yeah.
So do you? How long were you diagnosed with osteoporosis?
It's been probably 8 years. So I was in my late 40s when I was diagnosed.
Did you notice? Was there a significant change in like your first test versus after you started CrossFit?
I would say it got slightly better after starting CrossFit. But when I first got it, I kind of was like, oh yeah, I have osteoporosis, and I didn't really think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was probably 4 years after I was diagnosed when I started CrossFit.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I noticed that I'm much stronger, especially with this break, the way it's healed. With the osteoporosis, it's healed just fine.
Yeah.
It's very strong.
Yeah.
I have to have x-rays every time I go, and they always say, this is healing so well.
Good. Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
that was a concern for me with having osteoporosis.
Yeah, I mean, I would guess that more than likely, right, if you've been diagnosed for 8 years and you get tested every 2, that more than likely, even if your numbers on your tests haven't significantly improved, you're talking about an 8-year difference.
Right.
And from you would have been in your upper 40s when you were diagnosed?
Yes.
So you would have been in your upper 40s, and over the last 8 years, if your numbers have even slightly improved, that's way better than what if you hadn't done anything. More than likely they'd be dropping.
Right.
So even to a certain extent, even holding steady is a win.
Yes, absolutely.
As you age and get older, right?
Yes,
you got to start looking for what you can do to maintain things and not get worse. Because your quality of life's pretty good right now, right? You're not like you're still, as far as the average American age and stuff like that, like you're crushing life. So you're still working, still like.
Those 4 months of sitting were very hard on me.
Oh yeah, I've been there. Yeah.
I begged my doctor to go back to Pilates, and he let me go back about 6 weeks after my surgery. Because I'm like, I can't sit here and just sit. I gotta do something.
Yeah.
I would do weights laying on my bed.
Right.
I had dumbbells. I would do those laying on the bed just to do something.
Absolutely. Okay, so a couple more questions. One, do you have, since you've been doing 4.5 years, Lee and I have only been around for 4 of those, but that's the majority of your time.
Right.
So do you have is there anything in your mind, put you on the spot, that is like one of your favorite 5-alarm memories? It doesn't have to be a bright spot, but do you have like a favorite memory here at the gym, or anything that stands out?
The support I got from my 5 a.m. family when I got hurt.
When you got hurt?
Yeah, I might cry about it.
Oh, that's good.
They were so supportive.
Because you got like Chris Burchett.
Yes.
Coach, I know, was very personable.
Lisa's been there.
Lisa's been there.
Cindy, Laura. I mean, the whole 5 a.m. family. We're just, we're a special breed at 5 a.m.
Yeah. I mean, everybody feels that way.
Yeah.
We try not to have like cliques, but yeah, everybody feels that way. Like if you're a regular at the same class, which is part of why I want to do this. Like people don't know you. Like you come to Saturdays sometime, and it's like I have no idea who half these people are, or whatever. So they were just so supportive of me. When I got down one time at the gym, Laura and Cindy brought me flowers. They sent them to school, so that was a nice surprise. And so I just think the support of the whole gym. I mean, yes, I don't know people in the afternoon, but the ones I see at 5 and 6 a.m. and even some of the 9 a.m. It's just the sense of family, the sense of support. To me, that's what keeps me coming back. Yeah. Very good.
Yeah.
Well, I know you showed up to one of our park workouts. You
Yes.
after getting groceries
Yes,
or something,
yes.
you showed up, and
Yeah,
everybody was glad to see you
yeah,
there. You weren't
yeah.
back at the gym yet, but you were
No.
still on crutches
Right, right.
and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always good to have that. So the last thing that's great. So hopefully everybody's gotten a chance to know you and hear a little bit about where you come from and what your story is. The last thing, I don't want it to sound like a selfless promotion or anything, but like one of the big areas that we see issues with is people hear the word CrossFit and they get very scared. They're immediately, maybe they have just heard it's hard, or maybe they've seen the workouts and they're like, that's ridiculous or something like that. So like what it means more coming from you than it does from me.
Right.
So I'm obviously biased or whatever, but what would you say to someone who isn't a collegiate athlete, who isn't a high school athlete, who if you had a friend or anybody, or you just talking to somebody at random, they see your CrossFit shirt and they're like, oh wow, like you do CrossFit, you know, whatever. You're not like, a lot of people wouldn't look at you and be like, oh yeah, that she looks like the average CrossFit athlete,
A lot of
right?
people are surprised I do CrossFit.
Exactly. So
A
what
lot.
would you say to someone who was like, I could never do that, it's too hard?
Anyone can do it. I started when I was 53 years old. I wasn't very strong.
Right.
And anyone can do it. Especially if I can do it. Because when my son challenged me, I was scared. I truly was. Because you see the competitions on TV, you say, oh my gosh, what are these people doing to themselves? Now I watch it and I'm fascinated by that they can do this. And no, I'm never going to be like them. And I reached a point, not before my accident, quite a few months before my accident, that I don't have to push press a ton of weight.
No.
I don't have to deadlift a ton of weight. I just need to be in here to do the movements for myself, to make me feel strong,
Yes.
to stay healthy. And if I hadn't been doing this with my accident, I wouldn't be where I am at today in my recovery without it.
That's good.
I just can't even say enough about, don't worry about that. You may never push press 100 pounds. I know I'll never do that, but I'm at least doing something.
Yeah,
to stay in
I think
shape.
that's important. Like a couple things, like if people have seen the sport of CrossFit on TV,
Right.
that is 180 degrees difference than
Right.
the methodology of CrossFit for health and
Right.
wellness.
Right.
And we still call it fitness.
Right.
We view like sickness, wellness, and fitness on the same
Mhm.
continuum. That's another talk
Mhm.
for a different day. But like that's still, you're still fit,
Right.
right? It's still
Right.
fitness. So
Right.
and that's important. Like we're never gonna. Hopefully, we're never gonna push you to actually hurt yourself in the gym or
Oh,
anything.
no.
Like your only real competition is who you were yesterday.
Right. It's yourself.
You know. So and we
Right.
put you in a group with people and stuff like that. And
Right.
and there's some people who have the little friendly rivalries and stuff like
Right.
that.
Right.
But that's healthy. But it's not necessary.
Right.
And
Right.
you've got exactly the right attitude. So and we don't need to have you squatting 200 pounds.
No,
Kelly.
I know.
There's no. That's not gonna.
And I may never even be able to do a full squat based on my injury.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
Range of motion and stuff like
Right,
that. Like the goal is
right.
just to keep you
just
healthy
to
and
stay
maintain quality of life
Mhm.
and everything
right.
else. Yeah.
Right.
So awesome.
Anyone can do it. I mean, anyone.
Perfect.
I mean, I think I'm a perfect example of, just your average person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So,
Awesome. Well, thank you so much
Thank you.
for doing this. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
yeah.
So, and I will see you probably at 5 a.m.
Yeah.
sometime
Yeah.
coming up.
Sounds
So,
good.
yeah.
Sounds good.